Inga mana, inga reo, rangatira mātina koutou katoa. Nau mai, haere mai e te whānau, mōrena tātou. Good morning everyone, a very warm welcome to councillors and to members of our community. Thank you for attending today. I wish to start our meeting with a karakia. Welcome to Charles Ropatini.
Whakatau mai te ai o, whakatau mai te rangi Māori e, whakatau mai ngā whakaaro pai ki runga o tēnā. E te ari ki haere mai koe, whakawhitia mai tō mārama ki runga o tēnei whare kauni hera e tū mai nei. E te ari ki hoatu ki a rātou, ngā tini mate kua wehe atu ki te pō, te oki ngā tonutanga a, kia whiti ki a rātou te māramatanga mutu ngā kore. Tāngi hea, ngā tini mate e noho ana ki runga o te waka uruau, te waka o tamarereti. Me mihi, me whiua te aroha ki te wai marama marae, ki runga o te matunga o Phil Belcher. E te ari ki hoatu ki aia te oki ngā tunutanga a, kia whiti ki aia te māramatanga mutu ngā kore. Whakawhitia mai te marama ki runga o tēnei huinga e te atua kaharawa. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Ki te ingoa te matua me te tumaiti me te wairua tapu. Āmene.
Namahi nui, thank you, Charles. Apologies and leave of absence. I'll start with apologies. Apologies received today from Councillor Lawson, and leave of absence has previously been granted to Councillor Apatu. And I'll come to leave of absence further on. I'm happy to move from the chair. It's seconded Councillor Sholem. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. That is carried. Conflicts of interest. We'll address those as we come to them, councillors, throughout today's agenda paper. Confirmation of minutes. There's no minutes to confirm today. And can I welcome Councillor Dixon and Councillor Fowler, who have joined the meeting via Zoom. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
And now we move to any leave of absence required by councillors, which will be at the Mayor's discretion later, but is there any request at this point in time? Thank you. Now we move on to item 5, the amendment to Category 3 buyout policy. And welcome to the voluntary buyout office team, Gus and David. Did you want to come up and join us, or? Okay. And now I'll hand over to the Chief Executive to give some opening remarks. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you, Worship. Good morning, Mayor and councillors. Welcome to the community that have come along and those that might be watching online. Mr Cameron's report explains the situation regarding the amendment to the Category 3 buyout policy that was left to lie on the table at the council meeting on the 1st of February, and the procedural motions that's necessary this morning to uplift that report from the table. There is a substantive motion on the table which has been moved and seconded, which is the recommendations A to E from the 1st of February council report. Recommendation B from the 1st of February reviews to the demolition contribution for certain properties. Since the 1st of February, we went out to Category 3 property owners and asked for their feedback on the proposed demolition contribution from certain properties. We had 23 items of feedback that's detailed in your report, and 100% were opposed to the demolition contribution. So the key decision for council today is the matters covered out in Mr Cameron's report. And I'll just remind councillors that this came to light, as you know, part of the processes that we put in over the policy that you adopted last year was an independent advisory panel that looks at the application of the policy, and they had raised some issues that they wanted council to deliberate. And today, that deliberation following you procedurally uplifting the report is whether you want to proceed with seeking a contribution towards demolition from homeowners, or if you don't and you want the policy to remain as it was when you adopted it in September of 2023. So With those comments, Your Worship, I will hand back to you and the councillors.
Thank you. So, as we've heard, councillors, there is a substantive motion on the table. I welcome everyone. Please come and join and sit down. We're now considering the recommendations A to E, and from agenda item 5 and council meeting on the 1st of February. These recommendations are on page 14 of today's agenda. These recommendations were moved by Councillor Sholem and seconded by Councillor Watkins. I want to focus on recommendation B first, which relates to property owner contribution to demolition costs when insurance proceeds exceed market value of improvements or when property is uninsured. So now we will proceed with it. I would now invite the mover, if she would like a right of reply, Councillor Sholem.
Point of order, Your Worship. Do we need to move to uplift the item first? If so, I'm happy to move that we uplift the item 5 currently lying on the table to allow us to discuss it and action it.
Thank you. I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Butto, all those in favour please say aye. Aye. Any against?
Aye.
Thank you. That's carried. Right. Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor. Can I ask now, Councillor Sholem, do you wish to have a right of reply to the motion on the table, which is to include the amendment to the buyout policy?
Thank you, Your Worship. When we last met regarding this item, I at length discussed my reasoning behind being a mover, and I'm satisfied with that.
Thank you. Councillor Watkins, you have no further right of reply. Wish to right of reply?
Thank you, Worship. I made my comments at the former meeting and seconding this, so no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So can I welcome everybody, please come in. So I'm going to ask you to raise hands rather than eyes today. So we're going to start with recommendation B. So I will put that motion that we include amendment to the buyout policy, recommendation B, as written on your paper. All those who agree, raise your hand. Those against? Everybody must vote, councillors. There's no abstaining. I will not accept that today. Councillor Dixon, did I see your hand raised?
I voted for.
Michael, Councillor Fowler, please.
Voted against.
Thank you. Right, we just need to have a tally up now. Can I just take this moment while we've got so many members of our community most impacted by the cyclone in our chamber today to just acknowledge getting the responses and your submissions, the 23 people that brought their submissions to us so councillors could fully understand what your concerns were and make a decision today. So thank you for taking the time. I really enjoyed reading your submissions and I learned a lot that wasn't in any policy that we needed to hear. So thank you for taking the time to send your submissions to us today. Okay, so I adjourn the meeting for 2 minutes. We're just working through. That is very close, clearly. So the meeting is adjourned for 2 minutes as the officers count up the votes. Thank you. Councillors, there's too much confusion, so can I just get this absolutely nailed? So please, if you've got any questions on this procedural matter, could you please raise your hands now? So what we're going to is recommendation B. Could you please read recommendation B, or I'll ask Mr Cameron to read it out, but it is... So recommendation, thank you, Nigel.
So recommendation B is the substantive motion on the table, which is that you will seek a contribution from property owners towards the cost of demolition. That is recommendation B.
That is the motion on the table, moved by councillor Sholem, seconded by councillor Watkins. That is the motion. So if you agree with the amendment to include a contribution, then you will raise your hands. Thank you. Right. So this is recommendation 4, the recommendation on the table, the motion on the table. Okay, for those that keep just writing the names down. Yep. Put your hands up, please. Thank you. Damon, they didn't get yours.
So there's 6-4 change.
Those against?
Against?
Yes, we're going to adjourn, is that so it's 6 votes for and 6 against, and we just need to procedurally now determine how this moves from here. So, Your Worship and councillors, if we could reconvene, and I just need to explain the procedures here. So we have 6 that have supported the motion that's on the table and 6 that have opposed. So in this situation, it is the chair who has a casting vote. So the mayor who's presiding over the meeting has the deliberative vote, and in the case of an equality of votes, has the casting vote.
Kia ora, thank you, Chief Executive. That's lovely. This is my first time in 7 years as the Mayor having a casting vote. Never before have we got to this place. And this is a really, really big decision for us. As we can hear, there are definitely views both for and against this amendment. And they're very, very valid. And it's a very, very difficult decision for our councillors to make this decision today. But I will vote not to include the amendment, to leave the policy as status quo. And my reasons for that. Little did we know people's circumstances back in October when we first had this policy brought before us. It's been a big journey, and I thank the Voluntary Buyout Office and everybody who's participated in this process of making sure that we get the best for our people. But my biggest concern is that this, right from the beginning, through our negotiations with the Crown, is a partnership. And a partnership means a partnership with the Crown, and that is how we collect and distribute and sort out the silt and the debris, how we repair our bridges and our roading network and our transport network at enormous costs of $800 million, and how we manage our share of the $50 million for the voluntary buyout with the Crown. And as you will all have seen, I have sent a letter to the Prime Minister for him to understand what this means for us, for our people, and our recovery. And the voluntary buyout is one part of our journey in our recovery. We're on a long road with the Crown for our region to recover. And our intention, our objectives and our principles under the policy in October were to ensure that we got through this recovery and brought our people with us. And I thank everybody for their submissions, and I thank everybody for sharing their views. And this journey is going to be a long one. This isn't just about today. This isn't about what we do with our silt, our debris. This isn't about how we restore our roads and bridges. This is a partnership for the future. So I will vote not to include the amendment, but to stay with the original policy that we signed off on, the objectives and principles. Now we go back. Yes. Yes, now we move back to F, which is the new motion to provide direction. So the direction is that the Council direct the Chief Executive to administer the policy in its current state regarding the contributions for demolition, and not to seek a contribution of demolition costs from eligible property owners under the policy when their insurance proceeds exceed the market valuation of residential improvements or where the property is uninsured. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Worship. I would like to move motion F that you just spoke of, but I'd also like to ask about a slight tweak to that to allow the Chief Executive to modify the policy regarding GST.
Through Madam Chair, an option for you to consider is that you can deal with recommendation F now, and then you can return once you've dealt with F, and perhaps councillors may wish to record some reasons for their decision. Then you can return to the substantive motion and deal with recommendations C and D, which relate to management of GST and procedural matters for the policy.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'm happy to give my reasons. if that's okay. I support leaving the status quo to protect the integrity of council and the VBO in the original agreement that we made with the community and with the Crown. I'd like to think it would reduce the legal risks because we've already consulted on this policy with our community. We accepted quite clearly the burden of demolition when we created the policy. From what I learned earlier today, the Crown has seen that policy with the expectation that we adhere to it. I do believe it's important for Council to uphold the principles, the objectives and principles agreed with the community, and in my words, rather than quoting from the document, it is acting, actually no, I've got the document here, it is acting in good faith, treating people with respect, working to achieve timely outcomes, basically getting on and getting it done, and communicating clearly. I feel that we haven't done the latter as well as we could have. But those are my reasons, Your Worship, for moving recommendation F.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. I have a seconder, Councillor Fowler. Councillor Fowler?
Yes, I'd like to second the motion.
Would you like to speak to your seconding motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I believe that last year in August, the community was consulted on the LTP, which included that the council would be responsible for demolition charges. There were 200 submissions, only about 15% were against. The community saw the people on the roofs of their houses. They saw the damage. They, I believe, from that LTP process were happy for the council to pay. The Mayor has raised the question that we should possibly now pursue with the new government some more costs in this regard to ease the burden. So, and also believe that going back on what we said to these people is not an act of good faith.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon, anybody else want to speak to this, item F, new motion F?
Yes, I was hoping to second it, but that's fine. Somebody got in before me. The prime reason for my opposing the amendment was we had made a commitment with the community affected way back last year, and I think to backtrack on that was just really unethical, and for that reason I opposed it when it first came up, and I opposed it again. There are a couple of other reasons. I think we need to take into account the tremendous personal cost these people have endured. It's a year since the cyclone. We celebrated it only a week ago. Secondly, many of them will still be facing substantial losses because of the reduction in the value of their land, which they're not compensated for. And I think this is just a relatively small move in that direction. So those are my key reasons. I have others.
Councillor Nixon. Councillor Sholem?
Thank you, Worship. I will be speaking against the motion because I don't think it fulfils our obligations under the Local Government Act in acting in a financially prudent way that promotes the current and future interests of the wider community. I have absolute empathy and compassion for all those who have been impacted by Cyclone Gabrielle, which is why I was immensely supportive of the buyout. However, I do not believe that the motion on the table allows us to uphold the objectives of the current policy and allows us to fulfil our obligations under the Local Government Act.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon, last speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'm also going to oppose the motion, and the reasons for it, and I do feel very sorry for all those in the Category 3 buyout situation. Your lives have been devastated. But I really feel for the ratepayer who has to stump up with 50 million just for the buyout on top of the percentage of an infrastructure replacement cost that are also going to have to meet. They haven't had an insurance payment. Many of them are already living in Struggle Street, and any increase in rates will be too much for many. And that's why I want to support the ratepayer. I think they've got huge costs ahead of them.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Thank you. Order. Thank you. Right, we've had, I'll put the motion now, the new motion, motion F. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Thank you.
And now, Your Worship, please may I propose a recommendation G, tweaks to the GST? Have you got wording for that?
So that is a procedural matter. So now we need to, I'll just get you to explain the procedure. Next part, please, Craig.
Through Madam Chair, I would suggest that the members consider, or perhaps tasking me to draft a recommendation G, which records your reasonings, which I've noted around the table for making the decision. And if should council choose to go down that path, I suggest we deal with that, and then I suggest you go back then to the substantive motion to address matters C and D, which relate to GST and the some operational notification procedures in the policy. If you wish, Madam Chair, the members would need to vote on it. If you wish me to draft up a recommendation which reflects your reasons for the decision, I would then just request 10 minutes whilst I drafted that.
Thank you. Happy to.
Yes. Your Worship, I'm happy to support that and make a recommendation that we record our reasons for this decision, that they be formally recorded, and that there's an adjournment while they are noted, if that's appropriate.
Thank you, Councillor Butto. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. So the meeting is adjourned for 10 minutes. We'll be back at 20 to 11. Thank you. Brothers. right, if everyone could please be seated. Thank you, Henry. The meeting is adjourned. We're going back live. Thank you. We're resuming. Now, I'll just ask Craig, who has gathered up the reasons, and for him to explain those now, and we look at that recommendation.
Through Madam Chair, so I've tried to capture the essence of the conversation here, and perhaps we could get Lynn to read it out, because I can't quite see it from here.
So the council notes its reasons for recommendation F include Hastings District's recovery from Cyclone Gabrielle as a partnership of council, our Hastings community and the Crown. It is a long journey that will take 5 years or more. The principles of the voluntary buyout policy set in 2023, including acting in good faith, treating people with respect and clearly communicating. It was accepted at the time of the policy development that the costs of demolition would fall on council. Council is, in its ongoing collaboration with the Crown, will seek Crown assistance with the costs of demolition in the interests of partnership, and accordingly not seek a specific contribution to demolition from affected property owners. The objectives and principles of the policy were the basis for community consultation in 2023 when an amendment was made to the long-term plan to enable council to fund the policy buyout process. Council by a majority decision deems that it is most appropriate to remain with the substance of the community consultation. Substantial work by officers, consultants and council has gone into the development of the policy. It is a complex process to manage fairness to affected property owners and ratepayers. Council by majority vote is satisfied that the current policy settings are appropriate.
Thank you.
That's the suggested wording comes down to whether people are happy with it.
Are the council happy with that, or does anyone wish to amend any part of it? Councillor Kerr?
Thank you, Your Worship. And part of my consideration of the decision was around actually adhering to status quo. I appreciate this paper's come before us and we have to make a decision, but somewhere in here I would like to note that in making this decision we're adhering to what is already status quo.
Well, I think that through you, Your Worship, I mean, that's what F does, directs the Chief Executive to maintain the existing policy, and G is capturing the reasons for that direction to the Chief Executive.
Can you put F up there as well? So it's F and G.
So the Council directs the Chief Executive to administer the policy in its current state, regards contributions for demolition and not seek a contribution to demolition costs from eligible property owners under the policy where their insurance proceeds exceed the market, and G is then setting out the reasons for that direction.
Yes.
So this is now, have you got the move and a second for G?
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Sholem?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a procedural question through you. We have voted on F already. Are we
Yes.
talking about combining F and G and
No,
putting it to
we've,
vote
no,
again?
we've already voted on F, but I just wanted to show everybody there for context for councillor Kerr's question. So we voted and moved F, so this is for G.
Thank you.
Do I have a mover and a seconder for G? Councillor Nixon, seconder. Councillor Harvey. Any further questions? Councillor Sholem, do you have a concern about G? You're looking worried?
Sorry, Ms. Sandra, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Because I voted against F, I'm not sure if I can vote for G because it refers to F, which I voted against. So therefore, I think I'm kind of put in a position where I have to vote a certain way.
You just vote yes or no, against, for or against. Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Kerr.
The principles refer to also working to achieve timely outcomes. And for me, part of this decision making is that as well. We don't want to delay it. We don't want to defer it. We don't want to bring it back.
It's a very good point.
In another month. So can we just insert where the principles are? This aids working to achieve
Timely outcomes. Yes.
because
Thank
once
you.
this is decided, the VBO can
Yes.
move in action meaningful.
So could you include timely outcomes? Whereabouts, Tam?
Just off the bottom of the screen. Bit more. No, I thought it was it's there somewhere. No, yeah, third line down on the screen. Acting in good faith, treating people with respect, working to achieve timely outcomes. Sandra, can you check the mover and the seconder?
Haven't got one.
Yeah. Simon and David.
Mover and seconder, are you comfortable with that inclusion, timely outcomes? Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Great. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Yes. Councillor
Aye.
Shaw. And Councillor Dixon. Thank you. That is carried. Now we go back to C and D. I know this is very complex, councillors. Very complex for you to get our heads around. That's page 14. No, it's page 8. Jesus. This is to manage the GST, so it's actually on page 14, I beg your pardon, C and D. Happy to move from the chair, second to Councillor Sholem. Any questions on that? That is to deal with the GST matter that has been raised? No further questions?
One moment, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Nixon?
Does the GST have any impact on the shared cost with government? I can't see any, but I just wondered.
Oh, says Gus. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the enormous work, particularly you, Mr Cameron, on this paper, and to our voluntary buyout team, Gus, David, and all your people. That is carried. Thank you. Moving on now to item 6. Leave of absence delegation to the Mayor. Recommendation on page 30. Happy to move from the chair. Councillor Sholem. Oh, sorry. Councillor Nixon first.
On my next, yeah,
Item? You are.
yes, I am.
Okay.
I actually don't support it. Not because I think there's any sort of untoward possibilities, but rather I think this is the mechanism by which we around this table know what's going on. It's like so many other things. We seem to be slowly
With respect, councillor Nixon, point of order.
What?
If a councillor has any private issues or challenges, that is dealt with the mayor, by the mayor, thank you. And you have been well informed about all of the challenges any of our councillors have faced throughout any of our meetings, our workshops. So I won't accept that. Thank you. Councillor Sholem?
Happy to second, Your Worship.
Councillor Kerr?
I'd like to speak in favour. Historically, what I've found is that without having a central point where all leave requests go through and are approved, we can get into circumstances where we don't have sufficient councillors at one point. So very support it, appreciate that there will be times when we come to you with private matters and not having to come through the wider council is appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Jessup?
Thank you. I'd just like to total call that you do this for us too, because I was put in that position, and sometimes it's an emergency that you can't wait till the next meeting. So I total call this going ahead. Thank you.
I don't think so. Look. Councillor Dixon is second. Oh, have you got a question?
Yes, thank you, Worship. Look, I am very supportive of this, but just a question from me. Councillors are all self-employed. How does this work under when councillors are self-employed at Manact?
Could you just explain the procedural matters of the delegated rights of the mayor to approve leave of absence, please, Mr. Cameron?
Right. Well, I have to explain generally, Madam Chair. So councillors are not employees of council, so it's not a situation where you have an allocation of annual leave or sick leave. So the usual procedures for obtaining a leave of absence is to get approval in the council chamber in a council meeting. So the purpose of this delegation is, as has been discussed, the mayor has that delegation from council to approve leaves of absence and for matters of privacy, etc. So as you're not allocated a leave holding in any way, it's of no consequence for the council how long you are away. It's just if you miss a specific number of council meetings consecutively without an approved leave of absence is really the only time that a situation or problem arises. So.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Cameron. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. Oh, Councillor Corbyn.
I'm not clear about the difference between a leave of absence and an apology for not attending a meeting.
I'll ask you to explain. Thank you.
An apology to a meeting is just that, it's an apology for being absent from the meeting, and it's actually put to the vote as to whether apologies will be received. A leave of absence is an approved absence, so in effect your approved absence by default becomes your apology for the meeting. Does that answer the question? I know it's quite complex, but...
So, in effect, if I was to put an apology in for the meeting, I should be asking for a leave of absence from the mayor in advance?
No. If you are putting an apology for the meeting, it is for that particular meeting, and it's up to the meeting to decide whether they will receive your apology. In theory, they could go no, in which case you would be regarded as absent from the meeting, so you don't have to apply for a leave of absence. A leave of absence is a pre-approved approval to be away from a meeting or meetings. Yep.
Thank you. I'll put that recommendation, that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. Councillor Nixon. That is carried. Thank you. Now recommendation to exclude the public from a public item. Can I thank our community who have joined us today? And can I ask the officer responsible to explain why this item should be excluded from the public?
So through Madam Chair, the item reckoned to be heard in public excluded as a commercial transaction that council is in the process of negotiating. It's recommended at this time it's appropriate to be heard in public exclusion to protect both the negotiation position of council and the business information and interests of parties other than council.
Thank you. I'm happy to move from the chair, or Councillor Kerr, did you want to move the? Thank you. Councillor Kerr, seconded Councillor Nixon. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. That concludes our public part of the meeting today, and thank you everybody who has joined us via Zoom, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.